Okay, let's dive into, well, it's a really difficult subject today. Air India Flight AI 171.
Yeah, it really is a tragic event.
In this deep dive, we're pulling from the early investigation reports, various news articles covering what happened right after and how the inquiry started.
Right. The idea is to kind of unwrap what these sources actually tell us.
Hmm.
The facts, the immediate aftermath, and, the first steps being taken to figure out why.
Exactly. So let's unpack the basics from the material we've reviewed. We're talking about Air India Flight AI 171. It was a Boeing 7878 Dreamliner.
The tail number VTA and B for those tracking specific.
Right, and it was flying from Ahmedabad to London Gatwick with 242 people on board. That's 230 passengers and 12 crew members.
And the timeline laid out in these reports is, well, it's critical, especially one piece of information. It took off June 12th, around 1:38 p.m. local time, IST.
Okay.
But here's the really striking thing. Based on these sources, it climbed only about 625 feet. I mean, that's just barely over a tenth of a mile up.
Wow, only 625 feet.
Yeah. And then, it seems, it rapidly lost altitude. Tragically, it crashed into a building, part of the BJ Medical College in the Megani Nagar area.
And the reports say it just burst into flames on impact.
Exactly. That low altitude, it's something the reports really emphasize.
And the human cost. I mean, the details in the sources are just devastating.
Horrific.
Of the 242 people on the flight, the reports state 241 were killed.
Almost everyone.
Yeah. They do mention one survivor. A British national, reportedly in seat 11A, seems they managed to escape through an emergency exit.
An incredible escape amidst such tragedy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just the aircraft.
No, that's right. The sources confirm the tragedy extended to the ground. At least 38 people killed there.
In the college hostel building it
Yeah.
struck.
Mm.
And around 60 others injured. It's just staggering.
Given all that chaos, one thing the reports do highlight is how quickly some initial steps were taken.
Right. The flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder,
Yeah.
the black boxes,
Yeah.
they were recovered quite fast, found on a nearby rooftop, actually.
Okay, so they have them.
Yes, India's AAIB, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, they've already started analyzing that data. That's crucial.
And it sounds like international help is coming too.
That's what the sources indicate. Assistance is expected from the U.S. authorities, so the FAA and the NTSB.
Right, the usual heavy hitters in these kinds of investigations.
Exactly. And Boeing, the manufacturer, and GE Aerospace, who made the engines, they're expected to assist the AAIB as well. It really points to the complexity here.
And beyond just the investigation of this specific flight, there's been a broader technical response, right?
Yeah.
Based on the sources.
Yes, definitely. The Indian Aviation Regulator, the DGCA, has mandated additional checks across Air India's entire Dreamliner fleet.
So not just the 7878s, but the NAV 9s as well.
Correct. Both variants. And the reports get specific about what needs checking. Engines, hydraulics, fuel systems, cabin air systems, and critically, the takeoff systems.
That points towards potential areas of concern, doesn't it? Shows a rapid focus maybe on potential mechanical issues.
It certainly suggests they're casting a wide net, but focusing on systems critical during takeoff and initial climb.
Yeah.
If we, connect this to the bigger picture in aviation.
Yeah.
The sources really emphasize the significance. Right. This is the first fatal accident and the first hull loss involving a Boeing 787 anywhere in the world.
That's a major milestone, and not in a good way. A first for the Dreamliner program.
Exactly. A big deal for aviation safety data.
Yeah.
And, well, it's also seen as a serious blow to Air India, especially as they're trying to reposition themselves as a top-tier global airline.
Yeah, you can imagine. And we're already seeing ripple effects like flight disruptions.
That's right. The sources mentioned Flight AI 159, for example, being canceled specifically because of these mandated safety checks on the fleet.
And the emotional impact, the human side of this, is also reflected in the sources.
Very much so. There are quotes from Prime Minister Narendra Modi describing the loss of life as beyond words. And Air India's chairman called it the most heartbreaking crisis he's ever had to deal with in his career. You really feel the weight of it.
Absolutely. So, looking ahead, based on what we've read, what's the path forward here?
Well, ultimately, the key lies in those black boxes, the flight data and cockpit voice recordings. That's where the definitive answers are expected to come from.
And the sources mention some possibilities being looked at?
Yeah, the reports touch on potential factors. Things like, engine failure, maybe issues with the control systems, or even something like a bird strike during that critical takeoff phase.
Right, the standard list in some ways, but that low-altitude climb might narrow things down.
It might. And that joint effort with the international teams, Boeing, GE, That's going to be essential to really thoroughly analyze all the mechanical and flight data.
Okay. So if we pull this all together from these initial sources, it gives us a pretty clear, though incredibly sad snapshot. We see the event itself, the devastating immediate impact.
Yeah, and the urgent response, both from the investigators getting started and the airline reacting technically, it lays the groundwork, the known facts so far.
Exactly. Sets the stage for the deeper analysis that we're all waiting for.
Mhm.
Which kind of leaves us, and you listening, with this final thought to consider. Given that really specific detail from the sources, the fact the plane only got to 625 feet before things went wrong, how might that single piece of information right there in the early reports already be significantly focusing the investigation? How might it be narrowing down the possibilities for investigators as they dig into that black box data? Something to think about.